Dear Sargan, President of YASED, International Investors Association, distinguished participants, it's a great pleasure to join you today at the YASED International Investment Summit. This summit is not about the pandemic per se. In this time of COVID, however, everything around us is directly or indirectly related to the pandemic. In this sense, this event represents a timely opportunity to take stock of our experiences in the fight against the pandemic and its economic impact. The pandemic is spreading fast. It's wreaking havoc on the global economy. During this period, we have lost too many lives. We have seen overstretched healthcare systems. We witnessed a sharp decline in trade and foreign direct investment. People lost their jobs and businesses had to close their doors. Unfortunately, we are not out of the woods just yet. Today, I am going to talk about what Turkey has done until now to curb the pandemic's impact on our healthcare system and economy. Dear guests, I would like to start by saying that Turkey was in a strong position to counter this pandemic. Under the leadership of His Excellency President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, we built a resilient, carefully designed, and well-functioning social and physical infrastructure over the last 18 years. We have invested heavily in our healthcare system during that period. When the pandemic hit, we were sufficiently prepared in terms of our healthcare capacity. We had built a very strong hospital network nationwide. We had created an unparalleled ICU capacity. In other words, we were ready to deal with the pandemic's impact on our healthcare system. On the economy front, in previous years, the Turkish economy demonstrated certain internal and external imbalances in the form of above-average growth, widening current account deficit, and rising inflation. In recent years, however, we had taken significant steps to address our economy's vulnerabilities. We had significant fiscal room. More importantly, however, we had strong political will and a broad policy-making framework to use available policy tools. In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, we were able to provide cash assistance to households, postpone income tax payments, provided short-term employment allowance for employees, and offered loans through publicly owned banks. On the monetary policy front, the central bank backed up fiscal measures with the necessary steps. As economic activity strengthened, we began a process of normalization regarding those financial measures. During this period, we avoided protectionist policies and capital controls. We took advantage of new opportunities based on ever-changing supply chain trends. We aimed to increase the resilience of our economy, keep the current jobs intact, and generate more job opportunities where possible, and boost production. With those timely and well-targeted measures, Turkey delivered a successful crisis management and became one of the least affected countries. Dear participants, now let me turn to discuss recent macroeconomic developments. The Turkish economy has strong macro fundamentals, and the pandemic does not change this solid basis. Following the lockdowns, the economy has bounced back quickly on the back of well-crafted and targeted measures. The virus strung along with a series of targeted lockdown measures. These measures led to a contraction around 10% in the second quarter. With the easing of lockdown measures, the GDP rebounded rapidly by 6.7% in the third quarter. Turkey outperformed all OECD and G20 countries, even higher than China. The leading indicators, such as PMI, industrial production and exports, suggest that the recovery is going to continue in the coming period. Manufacturing PMI remained above 50 threshold level for the last 4 consecutive months, indicating growth in the manufacturing sector. Turkey's industrial production bounced by 8.1% year-on-year in September, marking the highest jump in production in Europe. For 2020, we estimate a low but positive growth rate. For 2021, we are expecting growth to be about 5.5%. Of course, our goal is to exceed this level. Distinguished participants, we have current account deficit, explained partly due to poor energy resources. But we do have necessary political will and policy space to address this challenge. And so far, we have done a lot on this front. When the economic growth in 2011 was at double digits, we had a current account deficit of $74 billion. We managed to reduce this deficit to less than a third in 2018, $20.7 billion. And we had a current account surplus of $8.6 billion in 2019. Excluding gold and energy, the surplus was $51 billion. To achieve this, we took fiscal and monetary measures coupled with structural steps. During this period, the financing structure of the current account deficit has also changed from portfolio investments and short-term capital inflows to FDI and long-term capital inflows. Attracting more FDI has been a main component in Turkey's economic policies over the past 18 years. The most important feature of Turkey's value proposition is the continuous reform process. Key reforms and legislative efforts have been put in place to improve Turkey's investment environment. Incentive programs catering to the needs of investors have been devised. With this, we aim to provide Turkey with high value-added investments and integrate our country into the global value chain. Currently, special incentives packages for technology-intensive investments, strategic investments, priority sectors, and regional investments are offered to investors. We have further launched a project-based incentive schema for a mega projects in strategic sectors. Turkey's reforms and incentives are not merely one-off arrangements. They are rather exhibiting a dynamic structure, constantly updated in line with ever-changing conditions and needs. As a result, Turkey made a gradual progress in the World Bank's Global Ease of Doing Business Index from 2006 to 2020. Being at the 84th place in 2006, we ranked 33rd in 2020. Dear participants, reforms and regulations enacted focus on making it easier to invest in the private sector. Turkey is decisive to maintain a sustainable, innovative design, production-oriented, and export-led growth strategy. The government has adopted a laissez-faire philosophy whereby it actively supports the economy without ever hampering it. We have also enhanced our economic welfare by letting the private sector lead the way. The cultivation of an investor-friendly environment has not gone unnoticed by international investors. Following such reforms and incentives, FDI inflows into Turkey since 2003 exceeded $220 billion. Briefly, Turkey's global advantages and value proposition include political stability, investor-friendly legal framework, protection of intellectual and industrial rights, highly qualified labor pool, large domestic market, proximity to foreign markets in the region, ease of exports, infrastructure investments, competitive costs, robust and diverse supply chain, and a wide range of R&D activities. Turkey's strategic location offers easy access to 1.7 billion people within a 4-hour flight radius. More than 23 urban centers, each populated with more than 1 million citizens, supports Turkey's thriving and large domestic market, with its 83 million population, half of whom are younger than 32 and a half. Turkey has the largest youth population among EU member states. Our overall labor force is around 33 million people, positioning us as the third largest labor force in Europe. Turkey's investment legislation is simple and complies with international standards. It also offers equal treatment for all investors. The Turkish government has set the target of increasing the share of R&D investments to 2% of the overall budget. Distinguished participants, the immediate impact of the COVID-19 has been the disruption of global value chains and the sudden halt of economic activities across the world. Multinationals have either cancelled or postponed their investments, including both greenfield and M&A projects. This has created new opportunities for companies and investment promotion agencies. Multinationals are reconsidering their geographic and sectoral activities to diversify their supply networks. This may eventually lead to divestments from some locations, but expansion in other locations. Turkey has a diverse and a strong manufacturing base and has indeed moved up the value chain over the past decades. We also support manufacturing, especially high value-added activities, by means of customized incentives and policies. Logistics infrastructure has also been key to Turkey's participation in global value chains. We have massively invested in transport infrastructure over the past decade, establishing domestic and international transport links. All of these factors make Turkey an ideal location for multinational companies looking for diversification of their supply chains. We are working and ready to work with all stakeholders to assist investors planning to relocate some of their activities. I would like to conclude my speech by extending my special congratulations to the organization team at YASED and wish all participants a very productive summit. Have a nice day.